Hello everyone and welcome back once again. This is your history teacher here, and this time I'm here with a new chapter of grade 8 NCERT, that is from trade to territory. Students, your this chapter will be in three parts, and this is the first part of your this chapter. So let's start. Students, as the title of the chapter denotes, this talks about Britishers adventing into India. And students, when they first came into India, their main purpose was trade. They had nothing to do expansion of territory in India. So students, in this chapter, you will learn and understand that how all this started, means how Britishers changed their sole purpose of trading to expansioning of territory in India. So let's start. Student, as you can see here is an image of a person, and this is last powerful Mughal ruler Aurangzeb. Students, this whole means how Britishers changed their sole purpose of trading to expansioning of territory in India. All started with the Mughal emperor, or the last most powerful Mughal emperor Aurangzeb. After that, there was no one powerful Mughal emperor that came to power, and as a result, the power of Mughal in India started to dissolve. And it was during that time when East India Company gaining strength in India. Students, as I said, Aurangzeb was the last of the powerful Mughal rulers, and he established control over a large part of the territory that is now known as India. Means he controlled over almost all over India that time. But student, after his death in 1707, many Mughal governors that were also known as Subedars that time and big Jamindars begin asserting their authority, means to say they took the advantage of Aurangzeb's death and they started establishing their own regional kingdoms. And student, as the powerful regional kingdoms emerged and established in various part of the India, due to this, Delhi couldn't no longer function as an effective center to control all over the states. And as a result, in the second half of the 18th century, a new power emerged on the political horizon of India, and that was the British power. Students, after Aurangzeb, there was no powerful Mughal ruler in the Mughal dynasty, but Mughal emperors continued to be only symbolically important. In fact, when there was a massive rebellion in 1857 against the British rule in India, Bahadur Shah Jafar, the Mughal emperor of that time, was seen as the natural leader. But once the revolt was put down by the Britishers, Bahadur Shah Jafar was forced to leave the kingdom by the Britishers, and his sons were shot in cold blood. Students, now in this section you will learn that when and how East India Company come to Eastern countries. Students, in 1600, the East India Company acquired a charter from the ruler of England, Queen Elizabeth I, who granted them the full permission to trade with the East. And according to this charter, the company could venture across all over the oceans and looking for new lands to buy goods at a cheaper price and get these things back to the Europe to sell at higher prices. But students, before East India Company adventing to the East, there were already many European powers who already advented in the Eastern countries, like the Portuguese, who already established their presence on the western coast of India and had their own base in Goa. And students, and in the same way during the early 17th century, the Dutch. Students, the Dutch were the natives of Netherlands, means one who is the citizen of Netherlands called Dutch. So that time Dutch were also want to explore the possibilities of trade in the Indian Oceans, and very soon in the same way French also arrived here to explore the possibility of trade. Students, so all these companies, means to say French, Dutch, Portuguese, and the Britishers, are interested in buying the same things from India, and that is fine qualities of cotton and silk. And in fact, not only cotton and silk, they also want to buy pepper, cloves, cardamom, and cinnamon, and all these things had a very great demand in European countries. That's why all these companies are interested in buying the same things. But as I said, there was a huge competition among us, these European companies, and that's why they inevitably pushed up the prices at which these goods could be purchased, and this reduced the profits that could be earned. And there is only one way by which these trading companies could flourish, and that was by eliminating the rival competitors. So by the 17th and the 18th century, they regularly sank each other's ships, blockaded sea routes, and prevented rival ships from moving with supplies of goods. And in fact, trade was carried on with the help of arms and ammunitions, and trading posts were protected through fortifications. Let's move on towards the next slide. Students, as you can see here, the heading East India Company begins trade in Bengal. So here in this section, you will study how East India Company started to trade in Bengal. Students, the first English factory was set up on the bank of the river Hooghly, that is in Bengal, in 1651. This was the base from which the company's trader, known at that time as factors, operated. And here in Bengal, the company had a warehouse. Students, warehouse is basically a godowns where goods for export were stored, and the company had offices where company's officials sat. And as the trade expanded, the East India Company persuaded merchants and the traders to come and settle near the factory in Bengal. And by in 1696, the East India Company built a fort around the settlement. And 2 years later, after 1696, the English East India Company bribed Mughal officials into giving the company jamindari rights over 3 villages. And they also persuaded the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb to issue a farman. Students, farman means a royal edict or a royal order to grant them the company the right to trade duty free. Means they wanted that Aurangzeb issue such kind of royal order through which company can trade with duty free, means without any kind of tax. And students, the East India Company tried continuously to press, means to say they continuously tried to make a pressure for more concession and manipulate the existing privileges. But student, Aurangzeb's farman, for instance, had granted only the company the right to duty free, means without any tax. But officials of the company who were carrying on private trade on the side were expected to pay duty. To say the duty, the tax were imposed on those officials of the company who were carrying the private trade on Bengal. But these private companies refused to pay taxes, and this causes an enormous loss of revenue for Bengal. And this causes a battle between the Britishers and the Mughal ruler. Now let's move on to the next slide. Student, as you can see here, the heading how trade led to battles. In this section, you will learn that how the trade that was introduced by the English East India Company in India led to battles. Students, as in the earlier slide, we already discussed that the Mughal ruler Aurangzeb impose duty, means to say taxes, on the private officials who carried their trade in Bengal. But the Britishers refused to pay the taxes, and this led to the conflict between the companies and the Nawab of Bengal. And soon, slowly and gradually, this conflict between the company and the Nawabs became intensified, due to which the Bengal Nawabs refused to grant or refused to allow the company's concessions, or demanded large tributes for the company's rights to trade. In fact, the Bengal Nawabs don't allow any kind of right to Britishers to mint coins in Bengal, and stopped them from extending their fortification, means to say stop them establish or to make any fort over there in Bengal. And students, the Nawabs of the Bengal blamed East India Company that they were refusing to pay taxes and writing disrespectful letters and trying to humiliate the Nawabs and their officials. And on its part, company declared that the unjust demands of the local officials were ruining the trade of the company, and trade could flourish if the duties were removed, means taxes were removed from them, means if the taxes were removed from the company's trade, then the trade could only flourish. And the East India Company also tried to convince the Nawab that to expand their trade, they had to enlarge its settlement, buy up villages, and rebuild their forts. But this conflicts between the Nawabs of the Bengal and the East India Companies gradually increases and finally culminated in the famous Battle of Plassey. Now let's move on towards the next slide. Now, students, it is the most important topic of history, and it is also very necessary for all of you to understand this topic, and you have to also remember the date of this battle, the Battle of Plassey. Students, in 1756, when Ali Vardi Khan died, students, Ali Vardi Khan was the then Nawab of Bengal. But after his death in 1756, Siraj-ud-Daulah became the new Nawab of Bengal. And Siraj-ud-Daulah was very powerful Nawab of his time, and company was worried about his power. So the company tried to make him puppet. Students, puppet means one who can easily controlled by someone else. And why company want to make Siraj-ud-Daulah a puppet? Because they want a trade concession and other privileges from him. So they tried, but they didn't success over it. So they helped one of the Siraj-ud-Daulah's rivals to become the Nawab. And after Siraj-ud-Daulah came to know about the company's strategy, he asked them to stop meddling in their political affairs, and Siraj-ud-Daulah stopped their fortifications and pay the revenues. But the company didn't pay any attention over Siraj-ud-Daulah whatever he said. So after negotiation failed, the Nawab Siraj-ud-Daulah marched with 30,000 soldiers to the east factory at Qasim Bazar and captured the company's officials and locked the warehouses, means to say locked the godowns of the companies, and disarmed all Englishmen and blockaded English ships over there in Qasim Bazar, that was in Bengal that time. Then he marched to Calcutta to establish control over the company's fortification over there. And students, when Britishers had the fall of Calcutta, company's official in Madras sent their army under the command of Robert Clive in 1757. And students, finally in 1757, Robert Clive led company's army against Siraj-ud-Daulah at Plassey. And students, in this battle between Robert Clive and Siraj-ud-Daulah, the Nawab of Bengal, means to say Siraj-ud-Daulah, was defeated by the Robert Clive's army. because one of his commander-in-chief, Mir Jafar, never fought the battle ever before. So Sirajuddaulah defeated in the Battle of Plassey by Robert Clive. And students, Robert Clive somehow managed to secure Mir Jafar's support, who was the commander-in-chief of Sirajuddaulah, by promising to make him Nawab after crushing Sirajuddaulah. Students, this Battle of Plassey was very famous in Indian history because it was the first major victory of company won in India. Now let's move on towards the next slide. And student, as I said in the earlier slide, that Robert Clive somehow managed to get the support of Mir Jafar, who was the commander-in-chief of Sirajuddaulah. And this man, Mir Jafar, stepped back at Sirajuddaulah. And due to this, Sirajuddaulah was defeated in the Battle of Plassey and was assassinated by the English East India Company. And after this, Mir Jafar made the new Nawab of Bengal. Students, but the company was still unwilling to take over the responsibility of administration because their main prime objective was the expansion of trade. But soon the company discovered that this was rather very difficult for them to control the Nawabs. For even the puppet Nawabs were not always as helpful as the company wanted them to be. So after all, they had to maintain a basic appearance of dignity and sovereignty if they wanted respect from their subject. So when Mir Jafar protested, the company deposed him and installed Mir Qasim as a new Nawab of Bengal. And when Mir Qasim complained, then the company also deposed him and defeated him in a battle fought at Buxar in 1764 and driven out of Bengal. And Mir Jafar was reinstalled again as a Nawab of Bengal. After this, the Nawab of Bengal, means to say Mir Jafar, had to pay rupees 5 lakh every month. But the company wanted more money to finance its war and meet the demands of the trade and its other expenses. And by the time Mir Jafar died in 1765, the mood of the company had changed, and then themselves became Nawabs of Bengal. So in 1765, the Mughal emperor appointed the company as the Diwan of Bengal, and under which English East India Company got the sole right over the vast revenue sources of Bengal. And due to this, from the early 18th century, the company's trade with India had expanded, and goods from India in very large quantity had to be brought with gold and silver imported from Britain. Now let's move on towards the next slide. Students, as you can see the heading, company official become Nawabs. Students, as I said in the earlier slide, that after the death of the Mir Jafar in 1765, the company mood was suddenly changed and they themselves want to become the Nawab of Bengal. And after the Battle of Plassey, the company's officials forced the Nawabs of the Bengal to give land and vast sum of money to the company officials as a personal gifts. And students, as an example, when Robert Clive left India, he left India with the worth rupees 401,102 European dollars. Students, when the East India Company appointed him as a governor of Bengal in 1764, he was asked to remove corruption in company administration, but he himself cross-examined in 1772 by the British Parliament, and where he was found suspicious of his vast wealth. Although, students, when he was found guilty, he committed suicide in 1774. But students, not all company officials succeeded in making money like Clive. Many died an early death in India due to disease and war, and it would not be right to regard all of them as corrupt and dishonest. Many of the company officials came from the humble background, and their uppermost desire was to earn enough in India. And those company officials who managed to return with vast wealth led flourished lives and flaunted their riches in Europe, and that's why they were called nabobs. And students, this word nabobs basically is an anglicized version of the Indian word nawab. Means this word nabobs originate from the Indian word nawab. Now students, your first part of chapter number 2 is finished here. I will be come back soon with the second part of this chapter. Till then, stay home, stay safe.